Hi, KD2ETP here, another video. This is going to be a 2-video day for me because I have the time, and it's the weather's pretty terrible. I don't feel like going out. It's pretty windy and cold up here in New York. This video is going to be about preparing for portable operations and what you might want to bring and what you're going to need when you're out there. So to start with, the first thing you need to do is kind of make a plan, get an idea what you're going out for. What are you doing? Where are you going? You see the types of things that I do when I'm out and about. So that requires a certain amount of gear and certain type of gear. But you know, there's other things, going to parks on the air, those kind of excuse me, those kind of portable operations. Like I said, the first thing you need to do is get a plan. You know, figure out where you're going, where you're going to be, and and then you can make a list about what you want to bring with you. And I think that's a real important part, is to make a list. I typically always have a list of all the radio equipment I'm going to bring, no matter where I'm going. Even though I have bags set up, like this one, for instance, with my tuner in it, the cables, microphones, jumpers, stuff like that. So make a list, get a plan going, and it'll make it much easier when you're out there, and it'll make sure that you don't forget what you need. So once you've figured out where and what you're going to do, whether it be a POTA or like one of these mini de-expeditions like I do, you know, research the area, figure out where you might want to set up, because that'll also make a difference as far as the equipment that you're going to bring with you. So the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out what radio you want to bring with you. Now, if you're going to like just a park where you're going to be near your car, obviously you can bring more gear with you, because it'll be easily accessible and readily available. Typically, like when I do the field days, I have one of the modular DeWalt box kits on the rollers with several different compartments. I bring tons of stuff. I bring you know, several large batteries. I got you know, several lengths of coax. I got jumpers. I got meters. I got different radios. I got tuners. I mean, it's quite the ordeal to get set up for a field day for me when I do winter field day or regular summer field day. So however, when I go out and I'm doing one of my mini de-expeditions, I have quite a bit less, because I got to pack it in a backpack and also save room for other things. So the radio, figure out what radio you're going to be using in relationship to where you're going. Like I said, if you're at a park, you might want to bring a 100-watt radio. If you're going to do a POTA and you're going to be near your vehicle, why not have more power? Is the way I look at it. If you're going and you're going to be further away and you have to carry your stuff in, then you're going to want a smaller radio and equipment. And you know, and along the radio lines, are you going to be doing CW or phone? CW, most cases you don't need a full-size radio with 100 watts. You can get away with a lot of the little can-style radios that you know, don't take up a lot of space. They're really small. So those are some of the things you want to think about when you're trying to figure out your radio. Batteries is another one that you got to think about. I have this 4 amp hour battery that I bring with me when I'm doing portable. I've tried other batteries in the past. I used to use the lead acid ones. They're pretty big, the brick ones, but they take up a lot of room and they're heavy. So I've switched to the LifePo batteries because they're lighter and easier to pack. But for a long time I was packing those lead acid batteries. They're much cheaper, you're readily available, and they last. So with the batteries, you got to think about how long you're going to be there, how long is the battery going to last. Typically this 4 amp hour battery on my Lab 599 will last me a good day out there. You know, 4 to 8 hours, depending on how many contacts you're making, how much you're talking, that kind of thing. I typically do phone. So that is, you know, the part that I like. I like the talking and whatnot. I'm not a CW guy, although I've been trying to learn it. That's something to take into consideration. And whether you're going to need more batteries. Like I said, when I go up for field day, for instance, I have several large batteries because I don't want to run out. And I have run out in the past and had to switch out in the middle. And so I've brought chargers with me and stuff like that. Which obviously, if I'm doing one of my mini D expeditions, I can't carry all that stuff with me. So batteries, you know, think about it. Think about how long you can run on it, and think about what you're going to need. Antennas, boy, that's a big one. But there's all kinds, and you know, everybody's got their preference. But for me, it's more or less these days. Where I'm going to be and what I think I can actually get up. So if I was to go to a park and I just wanted to set up real quick, or in my camper or something, some of those modular types like the buddiepole, a good one, you can stick it up on a painter's pole next to your camper, or strap it to, I've had my painter's pole put right in the center hole of a picnic table and run it up, run it like that. They're good, they're quick. You can get them together easy. There's like ham sticks. Those are other ones. They come with different types of clamps. You can clamp onto things. They go up quick, and you can get on the air really quick. So if your time's a concern, that's you know, the modular ones are probably the way to go. Or you know, but if you have the time and the means, I would always recommend a wire antenna, throwing it up in a tree and trying to get it up there. I run a lot of wire antennas and sloper configurations. Pretty much every antenna I've owned, I've run in a sloper because it's easy. You throw the one end up in the tree, you run the other one down to another tree, maybe 5 or 6 feet off the ground. And sometimes I've had them going right to the ground, and I've had really good success with that. So, like I said, there's a lot of options for antennas. But, you know, try and plan on what the antenna you're going to need for where you're going to be and how long you're going to be there. So coax, there's another one. Again, when I'm doing field day, I have hundreds of feet of coax with me. You know, I bring quite a bit of equipment for field day. But when I'm out in the field, I have some, I guess this is a different one. I bought a 50-foot length with BNC connectors because my radio takes BNC, and several of the portable antennas I have are also BNC. But so I have a 50-foot length with BNC connectors on each end of it, RG8X. It's thin, but it's a double shielded. It's a little heavy, but it's worth it for the you know, the quality of the coax. Sorry. But anyways, there's obviously multiple different choices of coax, and again, that's something you're going to want to adjust considering of where you're going and what you're doing. I never bring anything less than a 50-footer because I have a 25-footer with the buddiepole, and I found that at times when I've hoisted that buddiepole up into a tree really high, I couldn't get it up as high as I wanted because the coax was short. So now I always bring a 50-footer with me. And that may not be, you know, what you want to do. That's just what I do. And that usually gives me, I can get really high up in trees sometimes with different antennas, and have enough length to get to where I want to set up my station, let's say. So coax, jumpers, I don't know what you bring out with you. I typically, you know, when I'm at field day, I'll bring an external SWR in wattage meter. Typically when I'm out in the field, I just go by the one that's on the radio. I don't bring the extra thing because it's just one more thing you got to carry. And then there's the jumpers that you need. And so, you know, that's something to take into consideration. If you're going to be backpacking your stuff in, that's one thing. Like, again, if you're at a park doing a POTA, you're near your car, you can bring all that extra stuff, and it's helpful. And because your car is readily available and you don't have to hoof it all in. Actually, you know, that being said, I don't really understand why these people, why people go to parks and they're right near their vehicle, but only bring like a QRP radio. I think if I was to do a POTA, and like the one that I did do, I would bring my full radio and all the equipment because I have it accessible there. Now, if time's a concern and you're only going to be there for an hour or two, that I can understand. So, so we got our radio now, and we got our antenna picked out, and we have our coax ready. So coax, adapters. Although this one has a BNC here, several of my antennas don't have BNC connectors on it as well. So I have adapters to go from that BNC to BNC excuse me, coax that I have to regular SO239. So that's something to be, consider, you know, the antenna you pick, the coax you got, and then do you need any adapters for your radio? Make sure you got that stuff in. And this is where a list comes into play. Other things you might want, a table and a chair. If you're going to do a POTA at a park, you may want a place to sit. If you're going to be near your car, you may want to just have a table, one of those fold-up tables that you can pull out and a nice comfortable chair to sit in. Or, you know, is there a picnic table there that you can use? Something like that if you don't want to pack all the extra gear. So that's important as well. Some people use power meters for their batteries to let them know where they're at. My radio, this one in particular, which is my really go-to portable radio, has a power display on it. It tells me what the voltage is coming out, so I can keep an eye on that. But those are good to have to keep an eye on your battery power and how much life you got left in it while you're out there. You know, other things to think about: food, how long, and water. How long you're going to be there for? If you're going to be there for several hours, you're going to want something to drink. You're going to want something to eat. If you're backpacking in, that's something you got to take into consideration for room in your backpack. That's why I was looking at that icom 705 backpack, and I thought, boy, this is great if you are just going to go out for an hour. But if you're going to spend any time out there, I think it's a terrible backpack because you don't have the room to put all that, some extra stuff and amenities that would be helpful if you're going to be out there for several hours at a time. So something to think about, you know, and which leads me to the bag you're going to bring. And, you know, how are you packing all your items? What are you bringing with you? Again, if you're at a parks on the air or something and you're near your vehicle, it's not as much of a concern. But if you're actually going to go out and try and backpack in, I don't know if you saw my MVIS experiment. I had snowshoes and my backpack on, so everything had to be in there. So you have to adjust what you're bringing according to what you can carry in those kind of situations and how far you're going in. You don't want to be backpacking in, you know, like in that particular case, I think when I weighed everything with some food and some, you know, snacks and water and everything, you know, I was carrying roughly 20 pounds, I think, in that with all the radio equipment and then some of the extra things that I thought I'd need. With the extra equipment, what about a tent? You know, sometimes a 10 by 10 tent is helpful. Those pop-up tents, if you're at a park or something like that, you're near your vehicle, you can pop that up. It keeps you out of the rain. It keeps you out of the sun. Those are things to think about. I've been out before and been really hot, and I've also been caught in the rain. Again, my MVIS experiment, I did not bring any accommodations for rain because it was winter and I wasn't expecting rain, but that kind of stuff happens, you know. I do have, like, for instance, a 4x8 tarp that typically I throw in the bag. They're light, and you can string them up between trees and, you know, to keep the sun off you or keep the rain off you and protect your gear. So that's, optional equipment, let's say. And, depending on what you're doing, it's all relevant. And, you don't want to bring too much, but you don't want to bring too little. So I think the last thing I think is important is how you're going to log your contacts. And so me, typically when I'm out in the field, I have a field log book with I write everything down by hand. Although these days with all the technology, you can use a tablet. That works really well. They have those logging programs for POTAs, so you can log it all in there. And when you get home, you just hook up to the internet and download it right over to where you need to get your activation on there. You can use your phone. Everybody's got their phone with them these days. You can log on there if you use QRZ. I've done that before. I've logged contacts via my phone on QRZ. So, those are a couple of things you got to think about as well. How, what are you doing? And, do you need to submit a log? It's kind of a pain if you use a paper log and you're doing a POTA to go home and transfer it all on there. It takes a lot of time. And if you made a lot of contacts, you could be there for well over an hour re-putting in all the information when you could just bring a tablet and do it, or get a logging program for your phone. It's already on there. It has all the information that they want from you, and you can just submit it right in like that. Other than that, there's, like I said, there's a whole list of other items you can bring. It depends on where you're going, and that's the thing. But the most important thing that is for me is I always make a list, like I said at the beginning of this video. Make a list of what you need, and that way, as you're packing it in, you can check that stuff off, and you don't, you won't forget it. I've been out several times, let's say, when things haven't gone quite the way that I had expected them to, or I forgot equipment. I've been out before, forgot my battery. I forgot a microphone once, which, how do you talk, if you don't have the microphone, make sure you got your cables for your radio, for power, and obviously, like I said, the microphone. We already talked about adapters, if you need adapters, depending on your antennas and your coaxes. So, in the end, I would start off immediately, figure out where I'm going to go, and what kind of activation I'm going to be doing. Whether am I going to be near my vehicle? Is it going to be easily accessible? Am I going in very far? And then you can make your list and adjust it accordingly. There's a lot there to think about, and it's you don't want to get out there and fail. And I've failed 3 times trying to do that NVIS experiment. and when you're hiking through snow and going a mile in and dropping down into a big gorge, it's terrible when you get down there and you realize that the battery, for instance, one time wasn't working, or it started to rain on me, and I had everything set up, had everything I needed, but that's the one thing I didn't have, and that made all the difference. Just a piece of plastic, a good sized piece of plastic, would have been helpful in that situation. So more and more, with these expeditions, I make mistakes, and then I learn from them, and I add things to my list, and I take things off, stuff that I find that I bring all the time that I don't need. One thing that I was bringing for a while was like an external power watt meter, which I found redundant because of the information that's on the radio already has that. You don't need it. And again, in field day or in a situation like that, I have, I could probably set up 3 radio setups with all the equipment I bring, just because I like to have everything there in case something goes wrong, or whatnot. So, yep, just a lot to think about, a lot to pack in, but take your time. Make sure you got a good plan and a good list before you go, and I'm sure your expeditions will come out as well as mine do typically. KD2ETP, I hope you like this video. Like and subscribe, please.